Salvete omnes, ego sum, Magister Sullivan. So we're back at it after book 1 of the Aeneid, and we're into book 2, lines 40 through 56. We meet the iconic priest Laocoon, and he warns us not to trust the horse, because he has the gift of, foresight, and he has this sense of imminent dread. This is actually a really fun part of the Aeneid. It's my favorite part. This is Aeneas recounting to Dido the story of the Trojan War and the fall of the city. So here we go. First, there, before others, this is an ablative absolute, so notice the ablatives. So with the great crowd gathering, accompanying. So this is an example of a present participle. Notice the NT, right? And they're all in the ablative, so it's just called an ablative absolute. You can also see perfect passive participles and ablative absolutes too. This is the present passive participle, or present active participle, my bad. And Laocoon, burning with desire, burning with rage, burning with something. He runs down, or ran down, from the top of the citadel. And at a distance, notice that we're missing a verb here. In most cases, a verb says, in this case, probably shouts, because again, he's enraged, or he's filled with deep emotion. He says, "O wretched citizens, what such insanity," understood, is this, or what such insanities are there, right? So again, we have that lipsis where we're lacking a verb to say, and then also in this context, we're lacking the verb to be. All right, and then we have some more. So notice the questions here. So these are rhetorical questions, questions that are asked. There's no answer, or there's a specific answer that the author or the questioner has in mind, and it's getting us towards that thought process. Then we have these verbs, creditis, right, and putatis. These are going to introduce something called an indirect statement. And we're going to have those here. So we have avectos and we have carere. These are infinitives. So with the avectos, there should be an essay, and carere is just by itself. So do you all believe that the enemy has been carried away? Right? Or do you think that any gifts are lacking the trickery of the Greeks? Remember, danaum, right? That's a genitive, right? So the Greeks are known to be very tricksy. Okay. Thus, Ulysses is well known, or most known, right? Again, Ulysses is known for being very tricksy, right? Going back up to line 42, do we notice any rhetorical devices here? Notice the pattern. Right. Again, to further highlight, lines 43 through 44 is a continuation of these rhetorical questions, and then the grammatical aspect to target here, introduced with creditis here and putatis here, is that they are indirect statements. Very important. So inside the indirect statement, you're going to have an infinitive here and here. This is dative because carere takes the dative. Quick grammar note. Doles should be purple here. So careo, I misspoke, does not take the dative, it takes the ablative. So this color will be adapted in the translation sheet I give you. Right, so it's not dative here, it's ablative. My bad. All right, now we have or the Greeks, another word for Greeks, having been shut in this wood, are hidden. So here we have a passive verb. Notice the ending, ontur, equals passive. So, or the Greeks, having been shut in this wood, are hidden. The wood standing for the horse, the Trojan horse. Or, this machine is fashioned, or was fashioned, literally against our walls. And again, notice the word placement here. What kind of poetic devices do we have in 45 and 46? We have interlocking word order, or synchesis. And then we have these structures here, inspectura and ventura, right? These are about to, so it's going back to, so fabricata goes with machina, right? All of these are participles pointing to machina. So, and we translate inspectura, notice the in the ventura, as intending to or about to inspect the homes, or look down on the homes, and to come upon the city from above, like to spy upon the city from above. Or some mistake, or some error, or some something lies hidden. Error can also mean trick, so again, or some trick lies hidden. And then we have ne credite. And in poetry, usually this would be nolite credere. But in poetry, ne can be the negative. So don't trust, Trojans, don't trust the horse. Another grammatical point. All right, this is an imperative. This is an imperative, right? It's a command, right? And then we have, this is in the dative case. So, credo and a few other verbs take the dative of the person or dative of the thing in this context. So don't trust the horse. And the horse is in the dative because of the verb credite. Whatever it is, I fear the Greeks, especially while bearing gifts. Ferentes is a present participle going with danaos, the Greeks, and then dona is the object of ferentes, right? So while carrying gifts. This is probably one of the most famous lines of the Aeneid. So whatever it is, I fear the Greeks while bearing gifts, or especially while bearing gifts, right? So at here, usually translated as and, but the best translation for it here is actually, especially, or also. All right, and so thus, or in such a way, or having spoken thus, or having spoken in such a way, fatus here is a perfect passive participle, but I translate it as having spoken because the main verb is a deponent verb. Deponent verbs are those that are passive in form but active in meaning. So having spoken thus, again, Laocoon is still a subject. We've got to go all the way down here to our verb. He hurled. Right? And we can tell it's perfect because stetit is perfect. Right? He hurled a huge spear with all his might. Right? So notice again the configuration. And then the verb contorsit, which means to twist yourself or contort yourself, right? It's also mirrored in these words above, right? With the synchesis, or the interlocking word order. Against the flank, against the side, and against the curved belly of the beast, right, of the horse, at the seams, at the joints. We saw this with the ships earlier on, or when Aeneas' fleet gets dashed. All right, so in can also mean into, but this is against here, into or against. Actually, probably both is okay. All right, and so that spear, right, hasta is actually being referenced here by illa. That spear trembling stood. So tremens, right, is modifying illa. Tremens is a present participle. Notice the ns or nt is present. All right, and now we have another ablative absolute. So utero and recuso. So with the belly, or with the womb, having been struck. All right, so this is an example of a perfect passive participle. And then we have utero as our ablative noun. So with the belly having been struck. Then we have the empty or hollow caverns. Made a sound or resounded. And gave a groan. All right. So we have some of that personification, a wooden horse that is actually filled with life inside of it, as we'll see later on. Is being able to resound and to make a groan. Perhaps that's the collective groan of the Trojan mind or city in their imminent downfall. A couple other grammatical things to note, other than the participle, other than the ablative absolute, is that we have insonuere and deire. These are perfect passive verbs. They are perfect passive verbs. Again, in poetry, we can supply ere sometimes instead of erunt, erunt, right? Just to fit the scansion. We almost always only see these in poetry. Okay?